So, welcome to Sacred Elements, which is a conference that we're going to be hosting at Epiphany West next January on our campus in Berkeley, California. What the idea is behind this conference is that a lot of us have noticed that over the years, last decades, that not all is well with either our economic system nor the way in which we engage with the environment. And it's been a passion of mine for a long time now to think together ecology and economy. And within the Greek language, they have this common root that relates to the household. Oikos is the term for house or household. And so economy, the stewarding of household resources, and ecology, the understanding of those resources and how they relate to each other, have really a lot to do with each other. So how we think economy and ecology together when they are often in our societies considered to be separate disciplines that often are actually considered to be at odds with each other has been a really important thing for me to consider. There are a number of scholars who have argued that, in fact, one of the ways in which we're going to be able to address, as a global community, ways in which we are destructive of our environment and our human environments as well, is that religions have a huge responsibility in addressing those, and that faith communities have resources that can be mustered for engagement with these crises, so we can help our faith communities engage those questions both religiously and as people go out in their daily lives. So what we've come to think about is that how can we, across religious difference, think about economy and ecology, and how have our traditions done that in the past? And one of the things that I have in particularly noticed is that a lot of religious communities around the world, no matter what their cultural systems from which they arise, have many of them have an understanding of 4 or 5 sacred elements, or 4 elements, and one that governs them all. And so I've been interested in bringing together theologians, religious scholars, and faith practitioners to think and talk about how the sacred elements, water, air, fire, and earth, and the quintessence, or the 5th element, or however that's conceptualized, are related and show up in our faith communities and in the texts, the sacred texts of our traditions, and how we might engage with them to better contextualize our own understanding of embodiment, of our understanding of economic well-being, our understanding of ecological systems. And we have ways in which these elements are considered to be sacred. For example, in the Jewish and Christian traditions, we have an understanding of the earth, and human beings as arising and being formed from the earth. We have an understanding of water as being the element of creativity, of life, that is involved in sacred rites in Christianity that we have, such as baptism. It's an element that often is considered to be the element of the spirit, as is, interestingly enough, also the element of air, so the spirit traveling on the airwaves and hovering over the face of the deep. So we have air and water as being elements in which spirit travels and communicates and is involved in creation. We have a sense of fire, also the Holy Spirit, incidentally, in Christian tradition, as an element that ignites us and that creates heat and warmth. And so we have, and this is just one example from the Christian tradition. So one of the things we've been able to do in this conference is to gather a number of people from different faith traditions. We have 2 Muslim speakers, we have a Jewish speaker, and we have an African indigenous Christianity speaker who will talk to us on what it means to consider the elements or the importance of earth, the importance of air, fire, and of water in our multiple sacred traditions. We have also invited a yoga teacher to help us see this through yoga practice. And in fact, there are many ways in which Hinduism and yoga have ways of understanding elements that can be expressed also in physical movements around standing, like the earth, upending oneself, breathing, the question of prana in yoga, the exhale and the inhale, and the heat, the body heat, and the way in which our fluids travel in our bodies. All of these are ways in which that is expressed physically as well. So we have an opportunity at this conference to look at elements and say the way in which they're embodied in forms that are sacred to us, and that we have encountered them in sacred ways in our communities at this conference. And so the conference consists of multiple formats. We have 3 invited lecturers, and I will do a lecture on sacred elements in the Christian tradition. We have a number of workshops that people can sign up for. We actually have, I mentioned the yoga earlier, we have a yoga teacher who will offer practices around the 4 elements that people can sign up for and participate in. We have a worship hike. We have a multiplicity of resources available to you. So the conference is actually going to be engaged in multiple formats in which people can involve themselves in and explore the arts. We have an exhibit of artists engaging with the elements as well. So we are trying to appeal to a number of different senses. We are not just going to have frontal talks. We are going to have ways in which people can get involved. And if all goes well, we might even build a labyrinth together and talk about what are biblical gardens that we might bring closer to our religious communities through senses. What are ways in which our worship experiences can embody a greater remembrance and sacralizing both in our worship and daily lives of the elements that are part of the environment in which we as creatures live, and that we have a certain degree of sacred responsibility for.